Trying to understand mental well-being and mental health, it's a very complex subject, but you have to sort of understand what consciousness is, what you are as a conscious being, and to understand that we have aspects of self that not only these aspects of self create different chemicals within the brain, and some of them are happy hormones, some of them stress hormones, but also important to understand that these aspects of self is how we make decisions. Now, if let's say you've got a political party and everyone agrees on something, then that's decided. Even positive or negative, if everyone agrees on it, it's decided. And that means it could be negative, but everyone's agreed on it, it still goes through. Your mind is much the same. So you have an intellect and you have an emotional self. Some people call it a child self, but it's an emotional self. You have your intellect. These two elements are wanting different things from life. So the emotional self is wanting security and is wanting comfort and is wanting support and love and relationships and friendships. And then you have your intellect that says, yes, but you have a relationship that's going to cost you this. It's not going to be positive for you. You know, you need to be going off and doing this degree, or you need to be going off and traveling the world. You don't want a relationship tying you down. Why do you want this relationship to tie you down? It's ridiculous. And yet, so what happens is you make a decision based on who's the strongest aspect of yourself at that time. So if the intellect's stronger, you're probably going to say, all right, I'm going to go off traveling, forget the relationship, start them later. The emotional self says, okay, I can cope with that. If we're going to have them later, let's go off and travel. Or the intellect persuades the emotional self, says, but look all the fun we're going to have traveling. Look all that enjoyment and fun and being around friends and going out and drinking and having a fun and having a laugh and laying on beaches and eating well. Yeah. So the intellect can sometimes try and influence the emotional self. But these can sometimes be in very big conflict. If they're in a massive conflict, it's really hard to come to any decisions and it causes a lot of stress. And this is where your stress is coming from. When your emotional self and your intellect are not in agreement and finding it very hard to agree anyway. You have your spiritual self. So the spiritual self to me is it's just your compassion. The more compassionate you are, the more caring you are, the higher you are in your spiritual self, the more your spiritual self is coming through. As part of the brain, that if they remove that part of the brain, you don't have compassion. And some of the psychopaths and some of the worst people in the world have had damage to that part of the brain, and that may be why they've done whatever they've done. They don't have compassion. They don't. They can't feel other people's feelings. They can't understand other people. They can't put themselves in someone else's shoes and feel how they feel. The spiritual self is very much about understanding other people's thoughts and feelings and not just your own. The I suppose survival guide. I like to call it survival guide. You can call it your dark side. You can call it your devil. The devil isn't an entity that's outside this planet. The devil is what's inside every single human being, every animal. Now, I like to call it survival instincts because I like to be positive about it. We need it. Our immune system requires it. If you don't have your survival guide, you don't have an immune system. The immune system is about surviving. It's about competing. Even sexually, there's competitiveness about survival. Because the strongest, you know, baby being born, strongest person. So it's very much a survival guide. But when it's too powerful, it can be attacking when it doesn't need to attack. It can be afraid of something and it attacks it because it's afraid of it. You're a bit like, there may be a fox in your garden and you go up to the fox and the fox then tries to attack you. The fox is attacking you out of fear. That's it. It's afraid. It's trying to survive. So it attacks. Or it tries to run. And with a survival guide, it creates a lot of stress hormones. Some of these stress hormones do need action because we either fight or we run. And this is why physical exercise is very good sometimes of letting go of that. It's like the body wants to be anxious, the body wants to be stressed. So we put a physical action to it and it will help to calm the body. The body feels that it's done a run or it's fought off, whatever the threat is. But when the dark side is not being dealt with properly and it gets too strong and powerful, you can attack yourself. So the immune system can be so active, under threat so much that it's attacking your own cells because it's got no one else to attack. It's attacked everything. It's attacked everything. It's knocked everything back as much as it can, and then it's just going to go on to you. It's going to attack whatever's left. So how we think and how we feel is creating biological changes in our body all the time throughout the day. We are what we think, we are what we eat. The mind will make us want to eat certain things that we shouldn't be eating because it wants a high from it. It wants the sugars, it wants the salts, it wants the high, it wants the chemical high. And gambling, we're trying to create a chemical high. Now the intellect saying, don't do it, don't do it. Emotional self saying, oh, I need it, I need it. I need something to make me happy. I need something to make me feel secure or feel something. You know, these are in conflict and these are driving you to have behaviours that you don't want. Right? So there's a lot of people out there gambling, don't mind a little bit of gambling, they enjoy it, it's fun, it's harmless, they're not losing lots of money. They're certainly not losing money they can't afford to lose. That's fine. But when you're losing money and you're going into debt, when you're losing money and you're wanting to kill yourself because you can't cope with how much money you've lost, and then you're trying to gamble to try and win that money back. And when you get into that very negative cycle, it's not good for you. But it's to understand what chemical is that giving you and how can you replace that behavior to create that same chemical. That is where I can't go into all the details on here. I can put a little bit on my website about ways of creating positive chemicals within the brain, within the body, positive hormones. That's not so hard to do. But to go into great depth, everyone is individual and everyone needs certain ways. You know, it's all right me saying, oh, you've got to go and exercise, you've got to go and exercise. You might be disabled and unable to do that sort of exercise. You might have a heart condition and be unable to do that sort of exercise. So I can't just say one thing because everyone is so individual. So when we try and understand our thought process, our dark side, our spiritual aspect, the intellect, we've got our emotional child, emotional self. These all have to work together. They all have to work together and be in balance. And they are all producing certain chemicals within the body that also will make the body feel balanced. And that's what you've got to try and understand. And you need to research that. You know, if you've got a behavior that you don't like, then research it, but look at the chemicals it's creating and then look at the positive ways of creating the same chemicals. So we'll discuss certain conditions and certain mental health, but I'm going to do it in separate videos because I don't want to bore you by just going on and on about, you know, mental health in one video. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.